Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the chat show where we talk about empathy, employment, and innovation every Wednesday with thought leaders from the staffing industry, from the disability community, and the tech world. Today, our guest is Deborah Jaffe, I'm sorry, and a powerhouse of empathy with expertise in the disability advocacy space. Deborah is a founder of Facebook Disability Support Group, like Friends of People with Disabilities and Friends of Children with Special Needs. She utilized the social media platform to support her advocacy, utilizing Facebook and LinkedIn to network with other like minded individuals. With that, Deborah, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Deborah, let's start with this because this is always, I wonder how you, as a passionate disability advocate, how did you really got started in this disability advocacy space, which is really, by the way, admirable how you are connecting and helping thousands of people and family members, is connected to someone with disability or for themselves. So I really appreciate it and congratulate you with all your success and great work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It just started. I was working at a school for children with special needs, and I had been doing that. I had worked at several schools, but this particular school was a private school, and they had their 50th year of service, the same year that I turned 50 years old. So I wanted to do something special to celebrate the milestone. I loved the children there. I had such an affinity for those children, and I really wanted to do something special. So I decided to raise money for the school just to help the children. I didn't want gifts or anything like that. That was in lieu of gifts, is just donate to the school. So I tried to drum up a little bit of fundraising for them. I started a GoFundMe page, but I wanted to really get the word out there. So then I had the group to give more exposure so people would be aware of what I was trying to do. And I thought, oh, this will be temporary. I'll just do it to raise some money and then that'll be it. But even after the fundraising was over, I just saw there was such a tremendous demand. I kept getting requests to join. More people wanted to be members, and it just started growing. It took on a life of its own. And then the next thing I knew, it was so big. I said, wow, it was very gratifying. It was very rewarding because I felt like I was really helping people and making a difference. So I just kept doing it. I keep promoting it, I keep letting it grow, and I keep trying to reach more people. And it just became this passionate thing in my life that I love doing. And I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and I don't see me stopping anytime soon. It grows and the interest is there, so I'm going to keep doing it.
That is so amazing and admirable that how you really took your a small project to the totally next level of making the impact in the society and really connecting people globally. That's what I have learned from you, that your this group has people from all over the world and helping each other. And I know you are a true believer of working together. So tell us a little bit about your philosophy and how that is really helping you to what you do with this project.
Well, it feels very important to network because none of us can do this by ourselves. You work together, you can accomplish a lot more. Definitely more than trying to do it on your own. I couldn't do what I'm doing if I didn't have other people collaborating with me, because everyone has something to offer. I can offer certain things, and there's other people who offer other things. And if you work together, you can reach more people and you can help more people. So my networking skills, I have to say, have really gotten pretty good over the past few years. And all those connections have allowed me to facilitate the advocacy that I do. The members of my group, not only are they people who are seeking help, but there are professionals who are there to help the members who are looking for the help. So my group helps to connect those people. My group offers not just information, but actual resources. that maybe they didn't know about before. So if I can help even one person, then I've accomplished something.
Yeah, no, that is so powerful. And, personally, I also am a true believer of together. So, one of the technology which we have developed to teach children with autism, our tagline is anytime, anywhere, but most importantly, together, right? When we are working with people with disability and this community, we want to, the collaboration is the key. Another thing I would highlight, you mentioned your networking skill, but I see one more skill with that, this your all the active involvement with this beautiful project is your leadership skill. So tell me, as a leader, I know you've been doing some amazing work to protect the user group and in certain areas. So please share your thoughts. What are those activities and how your leadership skill is playing a really very important role in the success of these groups?
Well, that's the thing. Is social media is a great thing. I think it's a fantastic tool if it's used properly, which is what I'm trying to do with it, and that's what you try to do with it. We have good intentions, but not unfortunately, not everyone feels that way. So I'm very particular. Everyone is welcome to join my groups, but I do vet them pretty well. I try to keep out people that maybe are looking to take advantage of people they perceive to be vulnerable. And protecting my members is a number one priority for me. I really am very selective as far as that. And it's difficult. It's not a perfect science, but I'm very diligent. I review all the posts before they post. I review everything extensively and I do research. I don't just take it at face value because I want quality content in my groups, quality members and quality content.
Yes, and that has been that is always a challenge. Either it's within the group or any social media platform. So thank you for doing that. That's very important. And one of the thing I wanted to highlight here, that some of our people from our network, they are from employee resource group, ERGs, and business resource groups. And these resource groups are people who are connected to someone with disability, and they are always looking for this type of information. So if you can tell us a little bit about your group and how they can get involved, that would be great.
Okay. That's very simple. Not everyone's on Facebook, but if they happen to be on Facebook, that would be the best way because then they can join the groups. They If they're my Facebook friend, I can invite them. But if they don't want to be my Facebook friend, that's fine. It's not necessary. They can just request to join the groups. And I review all the requests, like I said. There are questions that have to be answered. That's one of the ways I vet the people. There are pending questions, and I look at the answers to the questions and I look at everyone's profiles. And then I make an educated decision as to whether or not I let the person in. So if those people request to join, I review their answers, I'll review their profiles, and I'll happily let them join. And then they can post about their employment opportunities or things that would be useful to the group. I'm more than happy to let them post.
Beautiful, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Now, I know you are working on some special projects that is, so tell me about your special project which you have shared with me earlier. That's very intriguing and interesting.
Well, the biggest project of their movie I was involved with, it's a beautiful little project called One Little Finger. It's actually available on various streaming platforms right now. I think Hulu might be one. I think Amazon Prime might be another. There's several. It's just such a beautiful little film. It promotes the ability and disability. It's all about promoting inclusion, disability inclusion, and awareness, acceptance. It actually was done with many actual disabled people, real life disabled people, showing the story of things that have actually happened in their lives. It's representative of things that have happened in their lives and how they overcame much of the adversity that they faced. And there's a little like love story underneath. It's just a beautiful little plot, but the main thing is it shows the strength and determination that these individuals have. And it just really brings to the forefront the importance of diversity and inclusion and acceptance. And it's a great little film. I had a spoken word part on the CD of the soundtrack. That was my involvement as far as that. I also did try to promote it pretty heavily. I was working on getting it used in school districts as an educational tool to help promote disability inclusion in school districts and in local communities where I live. Before COVID, that was going pretty well. COVID did slow that project down, but I'm hoping now that things hopefully will get back to normal, we can focus on that project again.
Yeah, no, that and thank you and congratulations on that successful project and doing some great work there. Talking about COVID, we all kind of tired of talking about pandemic, but we all know that there is an impact on people with disabilities. So just see if you can share some of your thoughts on how what you have seen, how people with disabilities are impacted during this time.
Well, I have to tell you, not that the pandemic was good, but there are many things where disabled people, I think, have been trying to say, hey, we can work remotely, you can make accommodations for us because of technology. And maybe employers were a little reluctant before, but now they see with the pandemic, many people are working remotely and they're utilizing technology to do their work. So it is possible. And I think it's given them the opportunity to do more jobs that weren't previously available to them because many people are now working from home and using technology to do what they used to do in person in an office. So I think in a way that's good because it shows it is possible.
Yeah.
I think there is still many stumbling blocks when it comes to disability employment, only because given the situation, there's a lot of competition with people who are not disabled, and the job market maybe is a little tough right now. But as you can see, technology is a good thing. It helps alleviate some of that competition because
Yeah.
I think it's in the world that it is more than possible to accommodate people.
Yeah. Yeah, and in our case, what we have experienced that some of those best practices established and proven successfully working for people with disability. In some cases, corporations were not ready to adopt, but now because of that experience that everyone is working remote, now it has opened up a lot of great opportunities for people with disability. So I absolutely agree with you on that. Talking about impacting and as you have mentioned earlier, the collaboration and how are the people you have been working with this groups impacting the disability community specifically during this difficult time. I'm pretty sure you must have a lot of great stories and so please share some of those things in last 9 or 10 months you have seen.
Well, I am seeing that many people in my groups are there's more interest in groups like mine than I've ever seen. My growth has been more, I mean, it always was growing, but it seems that my groups have grown even more over the past year because I think more people are online,
Yeah.
using the internet, using social media to stay connected.
Yeah.
They don't feel as isolated as they would feel otherwise. I mean, this is an isolating situation. So social media is one way to stay connected, right? So I'm seeing more activity in my groups. Many more people are requesting to join. More people are seeking out that assistance and that connection. Because the one thing I promote with my groups is that sense of community, that sense of belonging, that people are not feeling isolated and alone because this tells them, look, there's other people in a situation similar to yours and you're not alone.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Also, I know we talked about accessibility and how the technology is playing a role in breaking down barriers. How do you see that playing and in last about couple of years? How you have seen that progress or how it has evolved?
I'm seeing as far as technology, it's amazing. There's AI which I think that virtual reality, it's such a new technology, but I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for people to experience things that they couldn't otherwise. There's more interest in accommodating people as far as I had mentioned, people with low vision or blindness, making state parks and places that we take for granted being able to be more accessible, having Braille be available, having sign language interpreters be available for people who are hard of hearing, wheelchair accessibility, for example, going to a beach, having special ramps that people in wheelchairs can access the beach. It just seems that there's more conversation being had. Now, with all technology, they can make these accommodations for people so that it's a more inclusive society, so that it's good for all.
Great. So, we all know there are always goods and good and bad about technology. In some cases, I always talk about the biasness, and with AI, how do we prevent that as a technology leader? So, what are your thoughts on something which is what's not so good about the technology?
Well, I think that there's still the bugs that have to be worked out. Like some websites are not, I think, not accessible at all, or they try to make themselves accessible, but they're not really all that accessible. So I think there is still work to be done because people with certain, like I said, like low vision or blind, or like people like that also have the right to be able to visit websites the same as we do. And if it's not accessible, then that's excluding them, and they shouldn't be excluded. They should have the same accessibility that we have. So there's still work to be done there, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Deborah, you spoke about making resources available to people with disabilities and their families and caregivers. How important it is to build the sense of, as you mentioned earlier, the sense of community and belonging in this space, and that's what you really do very well with your this mission and with all your groups on the social media. Tell us how you are doing this, like a little bit about how part that. Yeah.
Well, like I said, the people I have in my groups, many of them are experts in the field. They either are therapists, for example, or maybe they have a special school or a special place where people go for therapies, um, or they just have knowledge. Maybe they've written some books, or they are speakers, they are motivational speakers, and they go around speaking about their expertise, or even just health professionals. These are people in my groups, and they are there to advise. Many times they will post specifically about maybe there's a webinar or some sort of a conference that's coming up, and they'll post that, and the members will be aware of it. They can join. A lot of these things are free, but maybe the people wouldn't have been aware that there was such an event. So it's posted in the group, and then they can join and get some information from the particular event. So there's, let's say, even a school, a special disability school. The people will post about the school that maybe they want to send their child there or something. These are just people offering their service. Sometimes products that are also what I feel to be good for the members. Maybe they aren't aware of. I don't know. For example, that Barbie came out with some dolls that represented the disability community, like Barbie was in a wheelchair. Maybe the members don't know that these Barbies are available and they'd like to get it for their child, something that they didn't even know existed, or certain clothing lines that have adaptive clothing for people that have difficulty maybe buttoning a button or zipping up a zipper, or it's hard for them to get dressed. There are special adaptive clothing lines that maybe they didn't know that they existed, but they go to my group and there's a post about it. There's certain organizations, Target is one. There's certain companies, big name companies, big name stores that offer these clothing lines, and maybe they weren't aware of that. Then they go to my group and they say, wow, I didn't even know they offered that. So then that's some information that's useful to them. So that's where my group is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, spreading that knowledge and any new things happening. Along with that, I'm pretty sure in your groups you must have seen, what are the most pressing challenges for the individuals with disability you have seen, where they are really getting benefit from this groups, and in terms of maybe at the school age or early in their lives, like where and what type of challenges where they are able to get the help through this platform?
Well, early intervention is very important for a young child.
Yes.
Earlier, the better.
Mhm.
Some of the challenges, I think, just getting the services they need, getting the diagnosis early so they can get the help that they need and have the insurance actually pay for it, because they need the proper diagnosis. And then it's very frustrating sometimes to get that diagnosis. I don't know if COVID has actually made that process worse for some people, but
Yeah.
just actually getting the services that they need to help their child, or actually, I find that when the children get older and they age out of the system,
Hmm.
having programs and services available for the child once the child ages out of the system. It seems like a lot of the services dry up for them. And then you have the parents and the family with the dilemma of what to do with that child now that this is where having a job, having some employment for them, you know,
Yeah.
and have as the most independent life as possible. The idea is to get them to be able to be as independent as possible.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a challenge because you need the service, you need the jobs to be available, you need the support system to be there for them. And when they get older, sometimes the support is not there. Even when they're younger, it's not always there. But once they age out of the system, it seems to dry up a lot.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, my next guest in the next week Wednesday is Dr. Michael Lewis, and with him from him I have learned the early diagnosis and early interventions are so important. And in United States, the average diagnosis age is about 4.5 years. Earliest we can diagnose is about 18 months. And as you rightly said, the at year 3, the early intervention stops. Now, how do we tap into that available resource as a parent? And that is a huge challenge. And the worst is, when parents are just when they find out the diagnosis in that phase, that's where it's very challenging because it's new to them. And
Right.
so
Well, that's another thing about my groups, because you have people in my groups who are experienced already,
there
and
we
advice to the people where they have a newly diagnosed child. And you have members that have been through the system, they know how it works, and they can advise them. People will actually post the question, oh, my child's been newly diagnosed, I don't know where to start, what can I do? So other parents, other members will jump in, and there'll be a dialogue between the members. Oh, I went here, I did this, or giving them the advice that they seek. So
Yeah.
it's not just me, I'm facilitating it. I'm the administrator, but the members themselves, they interact with each other. They interact with me, but they interact with each other, and everybody helps everybody. That's the whole point. It's a community.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. Now, we touched a little bit about the leadership and your working together, passion for collaboration and networking. Um, how do you really reach out to and expand your network? You mentioned earlier that during this pandemic, last few months, your size, the number of your members have increased. But do you really proactively go and reach out? How does that work?
I do. I do. It's like a domino effect because I'm friends or connected with people in the disability community.
Yeah,
It's a very tight knit
yeah,
community. It seems like a lot of people know a lot of other people in the community.
right.
One thing leads to another, because that's how I even got involved with the movie. I know this one, and this one knows that one, and that one knows this one. And if we have many mutual friends and I see we have many mutual connections, I might actually reach out to someone. And many times they connect with me. And once we've connected, then it becomes a correspondence between the two. And maybe they tell their friends about me, and then I get friend requests or other requests to connect from these other people. And it's like I said, it's a domino effect. One thing leads to another.
Right, right.
It just, like I said, it grows, it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah. No, but I can see that passion and that love. towards the work you do. Means that's what you're passionate and you like what you do. So I think that is really driving this whole growth of all your activities and your initiatives. So I really admire your passion to help others. So before we conclude, we have few more minutes. So I just want to do a quick time check on that. Any particular incidents you think which is you felt, and I know you as an empathetic leader, any particular incidents where you felt like empathy has really worked in building this community? So
I,
any.
I think empathy is everything. I think compassion and kindness is more important than it ever was. Considering the climate that we've been living in between the pandemic and I don't know, everything else that's been going on in the world, I think we need much more compassion and much more understanding and kindness. I think that the world certainly can do with more of that. And I think just taking the time to care about another person, it can change a person's life. The fact that someone actually is interested in doing something to help that person so they don't feel alone and uncared for. I mean, we're all in this together. And I really feel like it's something that's necessary these days. It's not even an option. We have to care for each other. We're all on this earth together.
Yeah,
We're all here together. And at the end of the day, whatever our differences, we should be able to still coexist peacefully with each other.
that is so powerful and that's so important message. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. That is so true and it's needed everywhere, right? In every angle. And we see that in corporate world also, where a lot of parents are connecting and building the employee resource group and setting up those goals to bring in the diversity at workplace. So empathy is very critical. Now, one of the other thing which I would love to learn and understand from you about the future, right? How you have been building this. How does the future of all your activities looks like, and what are your future plans and goals?
Well, I've been offered to do a few things, including something similar to what you're doing. I was offered a radio show at one point. There's been talk of my own little podcast, which I've considered doing only because it would again give me more of a platform to again
Yes.
get the message. Any way that I can spread the message, I'm going to try to utilize it. Now that the pandemic, that put a lot of things on hold for me, but once all this, smooths over and things can return to normal, I will definitely revisit all those options. So I would like to expand. Facebook was where I started, but I know there's so many more things out there that are available. And I feel like it's funny because it was the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act recently. And I feel like if there was legislation, if there was uh, our legislators, if they would have more policies in place that would be good for people with disabilities. And if I had that platform and I could really get that message across, maybe even to where it could impact something on a policy level, because that would be where change would really be effective if the policies could be changed, which, it's the government. So that's a big thing to try to address, but you have to start somewhere, right? The more voices you bring on board, the more change you probably affect. So just the more people that are working towards that goal, I think the more change is possible.
You are absolutely on your way there to make that change, um, and really making a global impact, because that's so tell us about the global impact. I think you have touched this a little bit because your audience is global. How do you see similarities or differences in needs? And before we conclude, because that's very important, which your group has been doing for years. So what do you
Well, that's
see?
what I said about the legislation. I mean, of course, whatever legislation depends on the government, depends on the country.
Yeah.
Things I see, let's say in the United States, not necessarily the same that's reflected. I've seen stuff in England that the policies seem a little bit different. I've seen India, Canada. There's been a few different, because I have members from all over the world and they'll post different things that are informing of legislation or things that are going on in the government. But when you read the article, it's not the United States necessarily. It might be, like I said, England or some other place, and I'll be reading it and I'll be saying to myself, wow, that's an interesting policy. We could really adopt that here in the United States, because some countries seem a little more forward thinking when it comes to their disability policies. And then some countries are maybe not as forward thinking. I don't think all countries are on the same page when it comes to that, unfortunately. There's still some countries that need to make a little more progress. And it's a work in progress. I think there is still much more left to be done.
That is so wonderful. Thank you, Deborah. This is truly making a global impact. And as you said, how every country and legislations are different, and the needs are also varies based on available resources in that country. So
Right.
thank you for truly connecting the whole world of disability on one platform, and wishing you all the best for your future projects and expansion of this platform, and really helping the disability community globally. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and wishing you all the best.
Well, thank you. If I ever have a podcast, maybe you could be a guest on my show.
Absolutely, it will be my pleasure. Thank you so much, Deborah. You should do it absolutely, because that is really needed. This is how we started also during pandemic. That how we saw that we are kind of disconnected from some of the people and stakeholders we work with.
Right.
You should definitely do that. We should talk offline. And thank you everyone for joining today. And we will continue our conversation on empathy, innovation, and employment with global leaders on this platform. Same time, same place. Thank you again. Thank you everyone. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.